Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Abbey the Food Scientist. I'm Abbey, and today I have a special guest, Amelia Shankwitz. Hi Amelia.
Hi, Abby.
Amelia, you work in food safety and supplier quality at Happy Family Organics. I'm so excited to talk to you because I haven't talked to anyone in quality yet. So I want to pick your brain on some of those topics. But first of all, one thing we have in common is during our undergrad, we did the same internship, actually. Yes.
Years apart, though.
Yes.
We weren't there together, which would have been way more fun.
Yes.
We had been
Yes.
together.
I did it many years before you. Let's say that. Yeah, but we worked for Dairy Concepts, which is way in northern Wisconsin. So both you and I have spent a summer in Bruce, Wisconsin, which I don't even remember the population.
I mean, we just as individuals made up a large part of it.
Yes, yeah. So we interned for Dairy Concepts, which they make like the cheddar powder for, I don't know, like mac and cheese or chips or something. And this internship, I remember when I did it, I was the first girl to ever do that internship. They had always, only guys had applied previously. It's not that they didn't want a woman to do it, like no one applied, because I mean, this internship, it was like heavily focusing on manufacturing, would you say, or how would you characterize it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would say maybe I spent like a day or two in the lab and maybe like a day learning how the warehouse is organized, but otherwise I was on the floor very much in production.
Yeah, and I think that part intimidated a lot of students, and that's why they didn't apply. But in retrospect, like we were talking before we started recording, we both learned so much by being in the plant, like invaluable.
And it like really gave a lot of context for classes later on in undergrad, like food manufacturing, food functionality, like learning what a spray dryer was before those classes was so helpful.
Right. And it gives you, even if you don't stay in manufacturing, like say a student went on to product development, understanding how the food is made at such a large scale helps you be a better product developer. Like it's a great type of internship to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And I remember, so I think the first time we met, I think you had hunted me down in Babcock Hall, which to ask me, because I had done it, years before you, to ask me about it. And you had like found me and I was like, I don't think I know her. And then you're like, I got to ask you some questions. I was like, oh, yes, because our former boss always told students, like, if you're interested, find Abbey, like talk to her, because I basically was living in the food science building. I was in grad school. And I don't know if Mike ever told you or if I ever told you this, but that was sort of like one of his tests to see if like a candidate went to talk to me. And I would give him a list of the students that did come ask me questions.
That's so funny. That is so funny that he was sort of having you help him.
Right. Yeah. He's like, well, if they're actually interested, they'll try to get like your feedback, which is true. So like after like a week after he had interviewed and talked to, all the candidates, he would contact me and be like, tell me everyone who has talked to you.
Oh my gosh. I vividly remember being like, I need to know these,
Yes.
like, because it was, you're moving to a different place. You're, having a job that they were relying on you, it wasn't like you were the intern getting coffee. You were very much, there every day doing jobs that they needed to get done.
And I think one of the things I told you, because the location is not like a prime location, rural northern Wisconsin. But I think I told you, I was like, it's an internship. It's like 3 months of your life. You can do this. Like, 3 months is going to go by so quickly.
And it did. It was wild. I just remember how long it took for them to get me a uniform with my name. And then like in the blink of an eye, it was time to like return it. Like,
No,
okay.
I know, I know. And I mean, at that internship, like I could kind of choose what I was interested in, like where they were super nice. Like I think from the outside it's very intimidating because it's like all guys that work in the plant and you don't know anyone and you're coming in there. I mean, but they were always helpful to me. They would, call me over if something was new. Like it was great.
Yeah. And I remember that there were even a few different trials that I got to help with because they, you know, had a lot of customers. They had a ton of various things going on there. And I remember, being part of a trial and things were not going well. And I was like, oh no.
Yes. No, like you said, you learn
Yeah.
so much. And it's like, I don't know for you, but definitely that internship, I would have had that internship in between, I think in between my sophomore and junior year. And that
Mm-hmm.
absolutely helped me get like the internship I really, really wanted the next year because they saw that I had manufacturing experience, which very few people had. And so the year after that, I went to work for Nestle, and that was like my goal. Like I was so pumped, but it never would have happened without this like manufactured focused internship at Dairy Concepts.
And I think that I have a kind of similar story where my internship with Schreiber Foods, the following summer, they saw that I had been in a plant and they were like, okay, perfect. Then we know exactly what you're going to do because, the stuff I was working on the next summer, I wasn't in a plant, but I was helping plants.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just having that experience shows like you are willing to be out of your comfort zone. Like you're not afraid to just be like hands on, like, let's go do it. We're going to get it done. Like that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like what I think it implies on the resume.
And that's the way you have to be.
Right.
It's implied on the resume because that's like really the attitude you have to go in with. Otherwise, you are going to have a really tough time.
Yes. Yeah. No, I loved it. It was a great 3 months. And so after Dairy Concepts, you went to Schreiber Foods. What did you do there?
I worked in their corporate quality, and so they had the summer I was there. They had just purchased a facility in Mexico, and they were ramping up to start production. And so I helped them write a HACCP plan. Like it was
Wow.
so helpful to apply the knowledge I had literally just learned like the year prior in school to a plant. And we would have weekly meetings and we would go through any of the equipment updates because they were making a lot of changes. And so it was one of those things that was very dynamic. And that for me was when I knew that quality was like very much what I wanted to do because it's basically a big puzzle and everybody plays a part in it. And it just is, really nice to like have a system that works. And of course you can always like make changes if things are, not going well. But that was, the step after being on the production line, doing that sort of work was very cool.
Yes. So that was actually my next question. I was going to ask, like, did you purposely go into quality or like was it a happy accident? So it sounds like at some point you kind of knew like this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So Schreiber had, I don't know if it's still true today, but a very robust intern program. There were a lot of interns at their office in Green Bay. And I, at the career fair, at Cool Center, they said, okay, like let's have an interview. And we just got to talking, and I was saying how I thought that quality and food safety would be something that I would put above, something more of like a product development role. And they're like, oh, okay, interesting. And so then I met with someone else that was the department head, and we just really clicked, and I got the internship. But it was one of those kind of experiences where I got both the quality and the food safety experience because one of the things that I thought was really fun about my job was that they had these corporate tastings every week. And so every week I would source a couple of different SKUs, but it would be 2 products, but made at different facilities across country. So they, had plants in Utah and then plants in Pennsylvania. And if they both produce the same SKU, I would order, a pallet or like a somewhat like large quantity from each, and then put samples out for everyone in the corporate office to taste. And then they would have, little notes. And so if they could tell the difference, that was bad, because like ideally everything is identical. That's kind of the definition of quality. It's uniform. It's like no off flavors, no off colors, that sort of thing. But then also when I was working with the plant, trying to get them set up for, they were also getting ready for a GFSI certificate like audit, getting your Global Food Safety Initiative audit passed, and like having a good score goes a very, very long way. So it was one of those things where I got to see both sides.
Yes, that is so cool. I love the idea of ordering things from like separate ends of the country and being like, do these match up? That's so fun.
Yeah. And it's something I still think about. Like, even when I am, just like traveling on my own, I'm like, okay, does this taste the same as when I get it from the store at home?
Right. Oh, that is awesome. And what I think is interesting about your career path is I feel like often quality jobs are overlooked. Like, I feel like every student is like product development, and quality is like the second option, I guess. But for you, you like found it and you're like, this is great.
Yeah, I think that is something that I have never really been able to like pinpoint why it is that people, I think that there's like a bit of an allure, because you kind of get to, explore new territory, whereas, like quality and food safety, it's pretty established. Like, what it is. It's not, gonna be super sparkly and fun, but like, I think people also forget that there are hard parts of innovation too.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, I love how you said it's not sparkly, it's not fun, but it's like the most, like food safety is the most important thing. It's just not sparkly.
Yeah. And it's like incredibly rewarding to know that you can feel good about the work that you do, and, the decisions that you make on a day-to-day are protecting the consumer.
No, I think that's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear like you found it early, and I hope other people like explore that option. Like we said, do an internship, just see, because that might be where you find fulfillment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And talk to people in the industry if you get the chance, because I think on paper there's a lot of roles that sound kind of boring, and I get that. But if you talk to people, I think that you'll get a much, like a more well-rounded, kind of description of what the job's like.
Right. No, I think it's great to connect with people that actually do the job, because they can better put it into perspective of what you actually do or responsible for.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, would you be able to tell us a little about your core role, because you are part food safety and part supplier quality. So what does that mean?
So what it means is a lot of the work I do is qualifying materials that go into our products. So the products I work on most closely are like puree pouches. And there is a lot of elements that kind of go unseen. We work very closely with the growers because of the heightened concern with, early development and, agricultural products. There's natural variability. And one of the things that we're working really hard on is understanding how soil health impacts the vegetables and fruits that we're putting into our pouches. And so, when I spend, time talking to agronomists and soil scientists, across the US, but also from other countries, because we source globally, given the nature of, North America having kind of a tough importing system right now. And then the seasonality, given like the northern and southern hemispheres, like apple season is coming up. It's, September 1st. But that's here. And so if, we need apple puree in, the dead of winter or, late spring, it is going to be sourced from somewhere in the southern hemisphere. So it's a lot of talking to suppliers, talking to the growers, and similar to like what I started doing when I was working for Schreiber Foods, going through food safety plans, going through HACCP plans, making sure that they have really strong processes in place. Today I was reviewing a facility's CIP validation. Like, you really form these very strong relationships with the suppliers, because at the end of the day, your product, our product, can only be as good as the ingredients that we put in. And so there's no detail too small.
Right.
And that is what I think I find the most interesting. Mm-hmm. Every facility is different. Every supplier, has a unique ingredient to offer. And that's what keeps it interesting.
No, absolutely. I think your job is, like you said, it's things that really go unseen or a normal person doesn't think about. Like, for example, I think when you said you qualify ingredients, what most people don't know is like you have a whole list of like specifications, like it can only have this many microbes in it, like this much of, some metal or something. Like, is that what you were saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you think about how some purees can be really runny and some are really thick, like there's literally no detail too small. We measure the bricks, the soluble sugars, and all of that needs to be within a certain range, because at the end of the day, we need to make a consistent product. We need to have a high quality product that the consumer can rely on. And given the population we're catering to, picky eaters, if they like the green pouch,
right.
You need to make the green pouch very well and the same every time.
Right. Oh, that is so funny. Yeah, it's like the smallest details cannot go unseen. Like, everything matters.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is really cool, because I think you may be the only person I know that works in supplier quality, but that seems like such an important job, because that's your starting ingredients, that's your starting quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. No. And then so besides supplier quality, for the food safety part, is that just, like the cleaning, you mentioned CIP, cleaning in place, or are you making like HACCP plans or testing materials, or what do you do there?
So in order for a material to be qualified, it does need to meet a certain, food safety standard. And with that, a lot of focus on microbiology, a lot of focus on heavy metals and contaminants and screening. And the brand that I work for is all organic. So we also, review the pesticide results and ensure that there's not been any cross contamination. We produce in gluten-free facilities, and we have a dedicated line for allergens. And so it's, everything food safety wise, from allergen cross contamination to pesticides, to micro, spoilage microorganisms. It's like, it's very foundational stuff to very, complex matrices of a food ingredient that you have to consider.
Right. No, I can see why you enjoy this now. I could see like where this is a very rewarding job. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering, so is there anything that like during your education that really helped you prepare for this career in food quality or safety? Like, does anything come to mind that maybe would help other students who would pursue this role?
So I thought that the food micro lab and lecture series was so interesting. I think his name was Adam. Was that the professor who did
You might
something?
have,
It was like he called it like the bug parade or
oh my
something
God,
goofy.
I love that.
And he would, go through the various microorganisms and then he would relate it. This is really tragic that he would relate it to like a big recall. But
Yes, yes.
I could list all of the recalls that were associated in like which
Mhm.
organism was
Right.
associated with it. And even today in like my day to day, we'll reference those sorts of things like, oh, do you remember like why it was that microorganism proliferated in that food media? And it's like one of those things that I I just loved it. And I think it was maybe just even something about the way it was presented that it was like a little more fun. Um, but yeah, that's what really, sparked my interest.
No, no, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's great. And it's good for students to realize if that's like the classes you enjoy, explore these types of roles because, like I said, sometimes they're a little overshadowed with other roles, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, don't um I don't blame anyone that, goes through candy manufacturing and absolutely wants to be a product developer
Yes.
for Mars. Like, I get it.
Yes. No, for me, it's all about showing people what their choices are so that they can make an educated decision in what do you want to do with your life, you know?
Totally. Yeah. There's just so many options. And so that's why I think it's so fantastic that you're, getting in touch with everyone who's in all these, very different roles,
Right.
but we all have the same degree. I
Yeah.
mean,
No.
I don't have a PhD, but
Yeah, no, no, I knew what you meant. Yes, yes. No, we all started a bachelor's degree in food science. Like it
yeah.
leads so many different paths, but I think everyone just needs to know what those different paths are almost. No.
Yeah.
Yes. So Amelia, I have one more question for you that I like to ask everyone who I've talked to, and it's that do you have like one piece of advice for current food science students?
I think that kind of as a continuation of saying, be curious, look around, ask people, I would say don't shy away from an opportunity that isn't a big CPG that like you love or your family loves, or that maybe something that no one's ever heard of. Like we both had incredible experiences at Dairy Concepts, but that's an ingredient company. Like they supply materials to other food companies. So like your Annie's mac and cheese, like nobody's thinking about like, oh wow, it would be so cool to work on the cheese dust.
Right, right.
But it was making the cheese dust that taught us everything. And so I think that my one piece of advice would be don't get too caught up in the brand. Just think about what the day-to-day is, and if that interests you, that's what you should pursue.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Like really consider every opportunity that goes your way because you might find something you really like. And if you don't, well, you learned what you don't like and you won't further pursue that. Like that's how you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Amelia, thank you so much for your time. It's been great catching up. We haven't talked in years, but it's been super fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we got in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for your time, and I'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Abby.